Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you can hear me well. Thanks, Sam, for this opportunity to speak about the GCF Impact Platform. It's always nice to take a step back and to actually reflect on where we are coming from, where we are right now, and what are the challenges ahead. And I hope that this is a really useful time for the board members so that by the end of the presentation, everybody has a clear understanding of why we see the GCF Impact Platform as a solution to a very specific problem, so why we need it, what is it that we are actually offering, and by means of a practical demonstration to illustrate how we are implementing it. And if we look at this slide, we will see that central to the problem that we are trying to solve is the difficult situation of tropical places that need to lower their deforestation rates, protect their ecological services and their territories, and at the same time advance the well-being of the local people. And most of the examples that we find there tell us that this is not normally possible and that quite often resources are extracted and ecosystems are depleted. Well, this is not the case everywhere. If we look at the GCF states, we can surely find examples of places, of jurisdictions that are gradually and slowly moving towards sustainable rural development. However, when talking to local political leaders, civil society, and local producers, we often hear the complaint that they are missing the promised support and that there is a lack of recognition of the private sector for their achievements. They complain basically that markets have been slow to respond and very slow to collaborate. And this is actually, as we see, the first part of the problem. Tropical jurisdictions are clearly in need of support and they are clearly in need of attention. And what I have on this slide is a collection of companies that actually do care about sustainability. I mean, this list is not complete by all means, but it's just an example of companies that have actually realized that at the same time that they can improve or maximize their profit, they can have a positive impact on the consumers and the places where they are making business. That they can really stop destructive model and make their businesses more socially and environmentally friendly. But we should not underestimate, however, how difficult it is for a company like Google, Microsoft, or Starbucks, who are really busy making amazing and wonderful products to make our lives more comfortable, to now think of all the dimensions of their economical footprint and how they can think environmentally better for the society. And this is, as we see, the second part of the problem. Companies need really guidance and they need support on how to really endorse the right places and on how to support the right projects to actually get closer to sustainability. And this is exactly what we are trying to do with the GCF Impact Platform. We are trying to bridge a gap, or we are trying to close a gap by helping states to actually get closer to jurisdictions. We are trying basically to help GCF states and provinces to find markets for the products and investors for their businesses. But I can read this the other way around. I could also say that with this solution, we are trying to provide or we are trying to find the best partners for companies and for investors. And what is it that we are, what is it that we are trying to, what is it that we are offering here in terms of the practical implementation? Well, first of all, we bring a very complete database of agricultural and silvicultural production. This includes the production of more than 60 agricultural goods that represent the rich diversity of the tropics. And we have very complete data for the last 15 years back to 2000 on the production of each jurisdiction of a very particular tropical good or commodity where users or private sector might be interested. But for sure, it's not all about agricultural production. It's also about what is the conditions of the forest conservation and the protection of their ecosystems. For every jurisdiction in the platform, we are offering a complete profile with indicators on the environmental dimension. And the plot that we see here is just one example of them. Is the carbon or CO2 emissions to the atmosphere coming from deforestation. So we are talking about above ground biomass, forest degradation, or in the case of Indonesia and Africa, about peat decomposition. But for sure, it's not also only about the physical conditions of the environment, right? It's also the people. And this is how we have a complete set of social indicators. For example, on poverty, education rates or literacy rates, child mortality, the presence of indigenous territories, what is the amount and the minority groups that are present on each jurisdiction, conservation areas, and so on. In terms of what we cover with this platform, well, basically we are talking about 55 second-order jurisdictions in the countries of the GCF, and this covers about 1/3 of the worldwide tropical forest. And we also realized that that there is an ongoing debate about sustainability and about jurisdictional sustainability. I mean, in the beginning, we had this discussion about the parcels or the farms, and now we're talking about states. But we also realize that states very often are the entry point to the solution, but we need to go one step down and actually look at the municipalities, or what we call the third order jurisdictions, that can be municipalities or districts. And that is why on our implementation, in our application, we have information, the same information that I have for the states, I have for 1,500 third order jurisdictions for those municipalities and districts. And we have done quite a very intensive job on putting this also spatially and on using satellite data, carbon layers, and very complete spatial data sets that I will unfortunately not have the time to demonstrate in 10 minutes of this presentation, but which are actually already implemented and complement all the information that we have in terms of indicators. And when we talk about indicators, hard data, databases, I mean, this is kind of hard data, and very often, as we see, implemented in different applications, can be quite kind of boring and difficult to understand. What we try to do with the platform is actually to bring the information in a very attractive way to the users, to make it kind of sexy, if I can say, so that the users can have a very clear understanding of where the jurisdiction is right now, what's happening in terms of all the dimensions that we're trying to cover, and we have a very complete picture so that we don't get lost in the details. We are very rigorous, we're very accurate and up to date, but we should not really get the user lost into all the details and the complexities of a given jurisdiction. And these are the basic solutions that we have. I will actually take the time during the practical demonstration to illustrate one of these solutions. But I also want to elaborate a little bit on the tailored platforms. I mean, this is a very big effort that we are making, and which we go from having these generic profiles for each jurisdiction for about 1,500 jurisdictions, and now we're going to collaborating with very particular places, with very particular states, like the ones that you see here on the slide, Mato Grosso, Acre, San Martin, and Ucayali. And we designed very particular and customized and tailored jurisdictions that actually reflect what's happening on the state in a more accurate way regarding the particularities. For example, if we talk about Acre, castaña and acai, the production of castaña and acai is a very important issue, while in Mato Grosso we are talking about large commodities and a different kind of ecosystem. So we are actually collaborating at the local level, and the way we implement these platforms is not really by our own initiative. We really depend on the motivation and on the support of those jurisdictions or those particular jurisdictions. These are pictures of the different kinds of meetings that we have had during the development of the platform for San Martin, for Ucayali in Peru, Mato Grosso, and Acre. And our hope is that with the time, we not only have calls from jurisdictions to set up platforms for them, but also from the private sector. So that the private sector says, hey, I'm interested in a particular place. Could you please maybe make a platform so that I can have like quarterly or yearly updates on a specific territory so that I can ensure that maybe my production is sustainable at the moment? So that's what we hope to have with the time, that we not only design this platform for jurisdictions, but also that companies or the private sectors are the ones that are actually telling us what they want to see and how they want to see it. And now let me switch over to the demonstration of the platform. It's not going to be a very complete one. I will just take a few minutes of your time to actually go to the GCF Impact platform. This is the platform, and the first thing you will see is that this platform is available in 3 languages, so English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and we hope to add more languages with the time. What we have here is the basic functionality, or the core functionality. These 3 buttons have a different purpose and a different kind of implementation. The first one of them, for example, is designed for the users that have a concrete idea on the projects that they want to support. So we have a list of particular projects, for example, in this case in Acre, that are related with the production of low carbon protein. So we're talking about fish farming, we are talking about pig farming or poultry in the state of Acre, and these are projects or enterprises that are ready to be supported and to be endorsed. So that's one of the first options, and we are still in the process of adding more projects to the database that are actually visible and are under the right track to sustainability. I will go to the second solution. I will go back, and then in the home place I have this option, which is helping a particular state or GCF province. And when I navigate there, I will see a selection of one particular state. For example, in Brazil, I can come here and say, okay, I actually care about Amazonas, or the jurisdiction of my interest is Pará. The same we have for Colombia, Caquetá, Ecuador, Indonesia. The user can select any of these places. And for the demonstration, I will focus on San Martin. San Martin is a very interesting place in Peru in terms of deforestation, but also agricultural production. And when we come to San Martin here, we will see first a very complete profile, and I will go straight to the production that I already described in the slides before. So in the production, the user can come here and identify what are the main commodities that we can find in San Martin in terms of production, and that will be rice, bananas and plantains, palm, and sugarcane. Those are the first top 4 commodities that we will find in the state of San Martin. A very interesting plot here or indicator is that we actually can come here and see all the crops that are really relevant in the state in terms of tons or in terms of area or agricultural area. So if we look at the tons, for example, the user can come here and say, okay, I'm interested on, maybe I will say cacao. So we will see that the production of cacao is going quite high, and is increasing over the last years, reaching 46,000 tons in 2016. And maybe say, okay, I also want to see what's happening in the coffee, and the coffee production is going high. And this is basically the case with many commodities or with many products in San Martin. San Martin is doing an amazing job in increasing production in all different kinds of sectors. For example, we see oil palm here with about 500,000 tons in 2016. But then we say, okay, well, what is the ecological footprint of that agricultural production? And then we can come here to the environmental tab of the profile. We'll see a very complete map of the state, or sorry, the state of San Martin in Peru, where we see deforestation, carbon stocks, and the most interesting layers of San Martin. I will not demonstrate the full map. We have the full map with all the functionality, but I hope that gives you an idea of what's happening in San Martin. One of the plots, for example, that might be interesting, looking at the increase in agricultural production, is the deforestation in San Martin. And we can see that gradually the state is decreasing deforestation over the last years. We can see, for example, the number of hectares in 2016 that were deforested. We are soon to have data on 2017. And something also very nice is to look, for example, at the CO2 emissions from deforestation. So these are the CO2 emissions, which quantify how much carbon actually is being lost every year in the forests of San Martin. But then, as I said, we can also go and say, okay, what about the people? Who is living in San Martin? What are the conditions? So these are the basic indicators of San Martin in terms of rural and urban areas. And I will not stay too much on this. I think the idea is clear now. We can also talk about governance, and in governance we are talking mainly about the indigenous people. What are the indigenous people that are living in San Martin? So we can see that 22,000 or 21,000 people live in San Martin as of 2007, so for sure this is a larger number now. We can see what are the indigenous territories that are being protected in San Martin or that are being respected, and what are the protected areas or conservation areas. This is very important because this will be no-go areas where we would not expect to see any deforestation or agricultural productions, and those are the green polygons that you see here on the map. And we have a tab for investment. So here in investment, you will see the projects that we are actually supporting or promoting for San Martin. And I talk about the 1,500 jurisdictions. So those are the districts. In the case of San Martin, we can see what are the districts of San Martin, and the user can select, for example, the district of Alto Zapoza, and all the information that I just presented will be also presented for the district of Alto Zapoza, which is a more a higher level of detail or a larger scale. And this is basically what is right now the description of the Peruvian report, for example, or the jurisdictional report. We have these interactive maps, and I try to describe the interactive maps during the presentation. It's actually a kind of a GIS on the web, a geographic information system on the web, where the user can come and actually in a very spatial way identify the same information that we are showing on the jurisdictional profile. Okay, my time is about to be over, and just the last one. This is the website, also the platform that I described before about the jurisdictional platforms. So you can go to the, for example, platform of Mato Grosso, Acre, San Martin, and Ucayali. These are platforms that have been designed for very specific jurisdictions that have already been engaged in the sustainable rural development, and that they came to us and said, okay, please help us to put up a very nice platform so that people can see what we're doing. So I know I will show just Acre, just the homepage of Acre. This is the platform of Acre, where we identify what are the goals of the state in terms of living, production, and conservation, what's happening with traditional livelihoods, with indigenous territories, the jurisdictional profile, and something very important, what are the investment opportunities of Acre. This is something that Acre is really trying to bring up to the table and be very visible, and we are actually supporting them in identifying or in showing this on the web in a very nice way. And well, that covers pretty much everything. I hope that by now everything is clear, and at least you have a better understanding of what we're trying to promote and how we're trying to solve this gap that we see between jurisdictions and the private sector. The platform is being developed. It was launched a few months ago during the GCF annual meeting. It has been very intensive work. We are still fixing functionality and curating data and trying to improve also the data that we're showing to make it more robust and consistent. We will see hopefully a very strong development over the next few months. And thank you for your attention. I hope that actually I have the chance to be part of the discussion after you play this video. And thanks Dan again for the opportunity.